A court in Ohio has jailed a Nigerian pastor. So this pastor and his friend orchestrated a $4.2 million COVID relief fraud scheme, and he has now been jailed. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. If you're interested in hearing real stories, lived experiences of immigrants living abroad, then you come to the right place. The stories we share here are stories that will inform you and educate you, and that we can all learn from them. Don't forget, as they say, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and it starts with information. So please subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring you more of these stories. Now, let me stop rambling on and get to the story. Pastor Edward Oluwasanmi has been sentenced to 27 months in prison for the role that he played in a COVID-19 relief fund fraud. Pastor Edward has been living in America for many years. He holds an American passport. He's a father and a grandfather. He's well loved and respected by his congregation. Now the congregation is in shock. They can't believe that their pastor, the man that they hold in such high regards, their spiritual leader, the man that they would run to when they need spiritual guidance, is now in jail. Before we dive into the story, just have a little listen to Pastor Edward in action. This is Pastor Edward preaching.
Look at what he said. He said that because look at it. Look at it. That's it. That's we're going to finish that. Look at it. Mercy looked unto him and were lighted, and their faces were not ashamed. Do you celebrate what you have now? So we are going to Somola County. So why you say this morning? People say you are very touch me. It made me need to be. The Bible says, you were not ashamed. I want to lay a pop. I want to be a pop. So for you sitting there, many of them with this Bible, when he said, Jesus never lived in a 3-bedroom and you are living there. You know how many people are not happy that you are living in a 3-bedroom? They won't tell you. You came here and you said, your husband bought one car, he changed, he bought another one. They won't be about it. So when they tell you...
So that is Pastor Edward there preaching. And he was preaching against greed, saying that if you do not control your greed will destroy you. Sadly, Pastor Edward did not practice what he preached, because this pastor's greed, his own greed, has now destroyed him. Pastor Edward is not a poor man. He's not a poor man. It is said that he's financially well off, but I think greed got the better of him. This latest incident happened during the Big C virus, when companies and businesses were struggling because businesses couldn't trade, companies were closing. So the US government decided to assist these small businesses so that even after COVID, they could keep trading. So the US government started this disaster relief program where you can apply, you submit your documents, and they will give you a loan. So Pastor Edward and his friends saw an opportunity to make quick bucks. Not just to make quick bucks, but to make big bucks. So what Pastor and his friend did was that they set up new companies. So they started new companies. These companies didn't really exist. They only exist on paper, but the idea was to use these companies to defraud the US government. So they started these new companies and they submit their applications to the disaster emergency program, which is meant for struggling business, real businesses. They submit their applications using false documents, so false tax papers, false business certificate, and they successfully defraud the US government out of $4.2 million. Pastor Edward's friend, who is his partner in crime, is Joseph Oloyede. And can you believe this other person is a king? Yes, a king in Osun State in Nigeria. He has already pleaded guilty and is going to be sentenced on the 1st of August. So they use these companies to collect money from the US government, a total of $4.2 million US. They submitted false applications for Paycheck Protection Programme and economic injury disaster loans under the US Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act between April 2020 and February 2022. So after they collected all that money, Oba Joseph went back home. He went back to his home state in Nigeria where he was made a king. So they thought everything was good, everything was over. He was living his life. He was literally living the life of a king. Pastor Edward continued his ministerial work, preaching, telling his congregation how life is good or God has been good to him. Time had passed and nothing had happened. So Oba Joseph decided to fly back to America. He has an American passport, so he can fly back to America. So he flew back to America, and as he landed at the airport, he was arrested. He was arrested and he was questioned. They told him that they're charging him with 12 counts of fraud. At first, he tried to deny, but when they showed the evidence to him, he admitted that yes, he will admit that he had collected that money. He said, look, I will admit I have collected that money, but I don't want to go to jail at my age and I'm not even well. I don't want to go to jail. How can we reach a plea bargain? So he pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty to 11 counts out of 12. 11 counts of fraud out of 12. According to the court documents, Apetu of Apetumodu Oba Joseph Oloyede also forfeited his property to the US government while awaiting the court judgment slated for August 1st. So when they say he forfeited his property, that means he handed it over to US government. He have no control over his property anymore. It now belongs to the US government. So Oluwasanmi and Oba Oloyede were arrested in early 2024 for fraudulently obtaining $4.2 million in COVID-19 relief funds. The two men were charged with 13 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to defraud, money laundering, and engaging in monetary transaction in criminally derived property. The two men were assigned before Justice Christopher Boyko of the United States District Crown Court in Ohio. Both men pleaded guilty to some of the charges after reaching a guilty plea agreement with the court. Oluwasanmi was sentenced to 27 months in prison on counts of 1, 11, and 12 of the indictment, and that happened on the 2nd of July. The court also ordered Oluwasanmi to pay a fine of $15,000 while he is to report himself to the U.S. Marshals Service. The two men are also asked to forfeit to the United States, that means to hand over control of all property, real and personal, which constitutes or is derived from proceeds traceable to commission of the wire fraud conspiracy offenses, all properties constituting or derived from proceeds the defendants obtained directly or indirectly as a result of wire fraud conspiracy offenses, and any or all properties, real and personal, involved in the money laundering offenses, and any properties traceable to such property, the court said. So that's a lot there. That's just saying that any property that they have, they obtained, that can be proven is obtained through all the criminal activities, they have to hand those over to the U.S. government. Oba Joseph is still waiting for a sentence. The court has fixed Friday the 1st of August for sentencing Oba Joseph Oloyede after the monarch also pleaded guilty to counts 1 and 13 of his charges. So these two men, they are successful in their own rights in America. They've worked hard and they've thrown it all away. Oba Oloyede and Oluwasanmi were accused of submitting falsified applications for Paycheck Protection Programme and economic injury disaster loans under the U.S. Coronavirus Aid. They used fake tax and wage documents to secure funds that were meant to support struggling businesses and companies during the pandemic. They started companies that didn't exist. Some of the companies that they use were names like Available Tax Services Incorporated, Available Financial Corporation, and Available Transportation Company to defraud the US government. So these are companies that they started. These companies didn't really exist, only on paper. They fortified documents, tax documents. Oloyede has forfeited the millions that he collected from the US government. He's found guilty and he's been sentenced. So, do you have any sympathy for him? Oba Joseph, a king, how much higher can you get? You're not poor. But king can be tarnishing the reputation of his people, of his culture. What say a common person? He didn't only tarnish his own reputation, he tarnished the reputation of his country, of his people. I hope they will reflect on their actions. They will have time while they're serving their sentence in prison to reflect on their action. Greed is what led to this. The same pastor who was preaching to his congregation about controlling their greed, he did not take his own advice. He allowed his own greed to destroy him. I said it before in my previous videos. When you see people return home, they're throwing their money about, they're having big parties, they're wearing all the designer stuff, driving big expensive vehicle. Don't envy them, because you never know where that money came from. These two men who were highly respected in their communities, pastor highly respected by his congregation, they have now fallen from grace. Millions have now been recovered from these men. Their properties have been seized. They're worse off now than they were before. They are poorer now than they were before, because now they have lost their reputation and their dignity. Don't forget to share this video, because these stories are lessons we can all learn from. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.